Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Filmi Ladies. I am Beth, and with me is Pitu, co-host extraordinaire. And we know that some of you will have been expecting this episode to be about Jane Austen adaptations, but twist, it's not. It's about Brahmastra, because we both got to see it and we both have things to say and everybody's talking about it and we want in on the action. And Pitu in particular has many thoughts. Please share them.
So many thoughts. I don't even know where to start. Like, first of all, my social media is completely getting blown up because all my friends have watched Brahmastra. So it was kind of like I wanted to go and see it as soon as I could because I was so afraid that all my friends were going to bombard me with spoilers. So I was like, no, I will not talk to anybody until I see it. But I enjoyed it so much. I had such a good time. And my DMs are just being blown up by people who want to discuss it. And there's just so much to talk about. Like, this is going to be such a juicy episode, Beth.
Excellent. So I was not expecting to like this movie really, but I did. What were you walking in with?
I was cautiously optimistic. I initially thought that I would not like it at all, mostly because I have never liked any of the Marvel movies or Avengers movies, and anything that has really weird over the top stuff. Like, for example, I'm one of the few people who really did not enjoy RRR, and I just fast forwarded the whole movie. I was like, what is this crap? So I wasn't sure I was going to like it. The only reason that I was optimistic was that all of my friends who saw it before I did, and there were at least 4 or 5 people who did, including you, they all told me it was fun. So I was like, okay, if they like it, maybe I'll like it too. And I did end up enjoying it as well. So I was cautiously optimistic and I enjoyed it a lot. What about you?
So I thought the trailer was terrible. And I had a lot of qualms about it based on the trailer, except I thought Amitabh Bachchan, I was like, he knows what kind of movie this is. He knows what he's doing. He'll be fine. And I was kind of like, about the rest. I do really like Ranbir Kapoor though. So I wanted to like it. I just didn't think I would. And then once it got going, like I really enjoyed it, especially once they kind of left, like once they're in Benares and then they go from there. I was like, yes, I'm into this movie. The first little chunk, I was like, nah, it's okay. This wasn't really moving me. But then I was really into it and I totally enjoyed it. And I got to see it in a crowded theater, which is not always the case here. And that made it so much more fun. My audience, for example, was not having the romance. They were not convinced by that. Neither was I. But like the way they hooted and hollered when any of that happened was so great. And people were like, they're talking back to the screen, which I love. Like it was a great time at the movies and I really enjoyed it. And I guess we're gonna have to wait a couple years for the next bit, but I dug it.
I had a lot of fun too. What I find is really funny, and all of our viewers who know that we're bona fide Shah Rukh fans are gonna like do their customary eye roll at this point. But I read a bunch of. I love that bit. I loved seeing him,
and I didn't know.
Did
you know he was there? Because I didn't know.
I had vaguely heard the name Shah Rukh Khan thrown around in Brahmastra, but because I specifically avoided every single review because Indian reviewers are the worst and they tell you the whole story, so I never click on any review. I basically thought it would be like a 2-second cameo. So I was very pleasantly surprised by what a big, like sort of chunky, important role he had. And I love the little nod, the wink and the nod to, to Swadesh, the fact that his name was Mohan Bhargav. I love that he was portrayed as the lead scientist of space. There's like, that's how Mohan Bhargav is.
So clever.
I love that. I also love the fact that he had the Vanarastra, the monkey astra, because Shah Rukh Khan literally got his start playing like the monkeys in the Ramayana, in the Ram Leela. So I love that as well. So that was very enjoyable. And being a bona fide Shah Rukh fan, you know that part where like at the end where, this is probably a moment to tell people that this review is going to have a lot of spoilers. So if you have not seen the master, you need to switch this episode off and come back later, okay? But that part where they're basically gonna kill him and they push him off the balcony or whatever, and he says something about Jeet Hamesha, Roshni ki hoti or whatever. I immediately mouthed the line where I was like, "Haar ke jeetne wale ko bazigar kehte hain," and then I was like, "What am I doing?" So that was a lot of fun. And I have to say, just the 10-minute screen time that Shah Rukh Khan had did much more for me than the entire 2-hour screen presence of Alia Bhatt. I was just like, what are you doing here? Why do you have these asinine dialogues? I was
Can
just, I was so
let's
over
talk
her.
about her character. Like there are great jokes on Twitter going around about how her only line is, Shiva kya hai and whatever. And that, ooh. I mean, you couldn't replace her character with a sexy lamp. So that's good.
Yeah.
But it just was very bleh. I felt like it could have been anyone. I don't find them to have screen chemistry together at all, which is fine. Many real life couples don't, right? That's totally fine. I mean, I didn't hate the character. It was just for having as much to do as she did, because she did have stuff to do. It still didn't really feel like much to me. But I guess I'm not mad at it. I'm just kind of disappointed it didn't kind of add up to something.
It was just very vanilla and weird. And I understand that they don't want to go into too much backstory and they really need to like speed up the romance bit to get to like the good part, which I'm not going into Brahmastra for a love story anyway. So that's fine. But even really basic questions like, this is a girl who is supposedly from London and she's just visiting India. How are her parents going to be okay with her just randomly going to Varanasi and stuff? I mean, maybe it's just me being a difficult moviegoer where I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But like, that doesn't make any sense. Why don't you just portray her as like an independent woman who lives in Mumbai or Delhi and she has a job and so she just takes off? Why is she like a London person? Because there's no way.
Yeah.
So it was kind of annoying. But I did read a comment on Reddit where someone said that this movie has been in the making for almost 10 years. And apparently, I don't know how true this is, but Alia Bhatt signed this movie almost 7 or 8 years ago when she was not the Alia Bhatt.
Sure.
Because people were like, this is a woman who has done Gangubai Kathiawadi and Udta Punjab and Darlings and, really good stuff. And for her to do this like really cookie cutter, boring caricature of a character, why? And they were like, yes, because when she signed it, she wasn't the Alia Bhatt. And I was like, okay, that makes sense if that's true.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another point that as I said, I was cautiously optimistic, but I really wanted the movie to do well, only because I've heard of how much Ayan Mukherjee, the director, put into it. Like he literally put 10 years of his life into it. And there were points when they thought the movie would have to be shelved because it was getting really expensive. And so I really wanted it to succeed just because we've all heard cautionary tales of filmmakers like Manmohan Desai and Raj Kapoor and, people who really took the failure of the movie hard. I mean, I've heard that Amir Khan is taking the failure of Lal Singh Chadda really hard. So I kind of like wanted it to succeed for Ayan Mukherjee, if nothing else. So how did you feel about Ranbir? Because I know you like Ranbir.
Yeah, okay. So I really liked Shamshara. And
I
know that I'm somewhat in a minority there. And I really liked that they kind of let him be an actual grown-up in that film. And so then watching this relatively soon after that, I was like, oh, we're back to the like, oh, he's 29 or whatever. They kept saying 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, and it's not that he doesn't pass for 30 physically, but like I have reinforced for myself that he is somehow 40 years old already. I don't know how that happened, so I kind of wish he could have been a little bit older, but then, fine. He's like, it's hero's journey. Like this is Harry Potter, Star Wars, every hero quest, Joseph Campbell, whatever. And I'm fine with that. So, I thought about it from time to time, but I was like, okay. But he was part of the thing in the trailer that made me go, but he worked for me. I am not a superhero movie person. Generally, I don't dislike them. I just don't seek them out. But I was overall pretty sold on it because I kind of liked this, like, here's someone learning to trust his instincts and all that. Again, this is not unique to this movie in any way, but that's absolutely fine. And his sort of commitment to try to help people, even though he didn't really understand why he knew what he knew and all that kind of stuff. Like, sure, that's fine. It was fun. I thought he was good. I'm not going to say I thought he was exceptional, but I thought he was solid. What did you think?
I like that he was very vulnerable and earnest.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things I like about Indian movies. And it's one of the reasons why I am not a Hollywood fan. Like I'll watch an American movie here and there, but I just don't like Hollywood movies even remotely compared to Indian movies. And for me, the primary reason for not liking American movies, I haven't seen very many European movies, so I can't speak to that, is that there's no earnestness and there's very little vulnerability. Everyone is very busy being cool, and nothing pisses me off more than a leading man who spends 2 hours of screen time being cool.
Yeah, and he
So
was not cool at all, except that
Yeah.
a little bit in the DJ stuff, and I didn't like that part.
Yeah, I didn't like that part either.
But they move
like
along.
that. Yeah, I like that he was awkward and earnest and vulnerable and had all these like abandonment issues. And despite all of that, he seemed very like emotionally intelligent. I don't know if this is the case or not, because I don't know who wrote this movie. I know the director is Ayan Mukherjee, but he almost felt like a man who was written by a woman. You know, the kind of characters that Zoya Akhtar and Rima Kagti like, right?
Ayan Mukherjee wrote this also.
Okay, so then he knows how to write good men then.
But he writes emotional films, right? So
he does.
That's fine. I really thought he was very cute with the kids.
Yes.
And I don't, like, I don't need little kids in my movies basically ever, but I thought that was all very cute. And when they danced together, like, I was like, okay, that's cute.
It seemed like such a throwback to Mr. India, and she even refers to Mr. India. So there were a lot of things in this movie where it's like there was a little nod to Swades, there was a little nod to Mr. India. There were all these like little things that made me go. There was even a moment where I don't know if I was just delirious because it was past my bedtime when I watched this movie, but there's that scene where Amitabh Bachchan, it's in the middle of this like whole battle or whatever, and then he just suddenly looms onto the screen, and just the way he's backlit, and I was like, Shahenshah, so there was even that moment, and I almost said that, and my husband looked at me like, that's Guruji, and I'm like, I know, but it's Shahenshah mashup with Guruji. So I liked all of those things. I think that was a lot of fun for anyone who's like a bona fide like Bollywood fan. Also, dude, Amitabh Bachchan is irreplaceable. I am no Amitabh Bachchan fan. I never have been, but I literally cannot think of anyone else playing this role. And it's a very like checklist kind of role, right? It's not like he's not reinventing the wheel here, but none of his contemporaries are alive anymore, with the exception of Dharmendra. But I
was going to say, I feel like Dharmendra could do it.
He's very frail. I follow him on Instagram. He's not very physically hearty.
You know who maybe could have done it? And I'm not saying they should switch this out or anything. I think Kabir Bedi could do it.
Yes.
Because he is like, he's the best part of Mohenjo-daro, where he plays kind of the evil version. Oh, I know.
Oh, you are so right. He's so smoking Mohenjo-daro. Okay, fun anecdote. So my family lives in Mumbai, right? And my mom is like traveling here and there. And the number of times my mother has seen like Bollywood stars or like TV stars or whatever, the airport, like she's lost count. It doesn't even faze her. If you're from Mumbai, you're like, yeah, whatever. Sure. Like I saw Ashutosh Gwarkar outside my in-laws' house, like hailing a rickshaw. So it's no big deal. And so she'll always see like these people, and she'll just mention it to me on the phone. And the only time I've heard her excited was I was like, so how was your week? And she was like, oh, I came back from Nagpur, and you know who I saw at the airport? Like he was waiting outside for a cab or like for a pickup, and I was like, who? She was like, Kabir Bedi. And I was like, oh. And then I was like, how did he look? Because I've always thought he was so hot. And she
gorgeous.
Was like, she was like, he's so handsome and tall and so good looking. My mother was smitten. And I was like,
you need to read. So there's a recent biography of Parveen Babi that's really good. And of course, he's in there significantly, but they talk quite a bit about how Italy went insane for him when he did that TV series.
For Sandokan.
Which I knew he had done European TV. That's kind of all I knew. And I was like, I had no idea it was such a big deal, but like, I get it. I totally get it.
You are so right. I mean, I would totally cast Kabir Bedi. Why isn't anyone casting him in movies? Amazing.
He shows up now and then, but he could show up more. I think he would be.
He should show up more.
Because you're right. A lot of those guys have died. Because like Vinod Khanna could have done it, but obviously has died. It's just not.
Yeah.
It's sad.
I was looking up Amitabh Bachchan's contemporaries. Like I went down this like Wikipedia rabbit hole of looking at his contemporaries. So Rajesh Khanna was only 3 months younger than Amitabh Bachchan. They were born in the same year. It's just Rajesh Khanna achieved stardom a lot earlier. That's why we associate him with like being older. Dharmendra is like
little older.
3 years younger or something than Amitabh. And then
he's not older.
I don't know. And then Shashi Kapoor, of course, is like 5 years older or something.
Yeah.
So they're, except for the remainder, they're all gone. And then I was like racking my brains. I was like, who is around that is like his age? And then I thought of Rajnikant, who of course doesn't do as many Hindi movies, but Rajnikant is like 71 and he's fit and active. So there's that. And there's Kamal Hassan, who's 69. But otherwise, Amitabh Bachchan has a monopoly over these roles at this point.
But I like him because I love all those guys. I love all of them, and they're dying, and that makes me sad. I know. Yeah, I thought he was great. I thought Dimple Kapadia, like, give her more, but I was happy to see her.
She's like driving the helicopter. I was like, okay, that's cool, I guess.
There are very few women in Hindi films who have piloted helicopters, as far as I can. I've been asking Twitter, and like, obviously, there's the Gangu
Gunjan Saxena.
Thank you. I don't know why I blanked her name. Yeah. Very famously her, which I didn't even think of. And I was like, Tabu does not fly the helicopter in Fana. I don't think. She just fires from it.
No. Yeah.
And someone said there's maybe an Uri. Does a woman fly?
I think Kanna Ranaut is doing a movie. I think it's called Tejas or something like that. But I think she plays a pilot in it. I don't think she plays like a helicopter.
But that was pretty cool. And I wanted more of her.
I mean, I'm hoping that she'll have a bigger role in part 2, just because otherwise, why did you cast her? It was like blink and miss it. Am I the only one who thought Nagarjun was awful?
Oh, I enjoyed him, but I have I'm not even sure if I've seen him in anything. I know who he is, but I don't think I've seen him. So I was happy to see him. He lent, like, not quite full elder statesman, but like, so one of the things I noticed about this film, and I don't know why I noticed this, but Generation X was entirely missing from this film except for Shah Rukh. He is the only person of that generation to be in the film, even as a character. And I was like, that's interesting. So we had boomers, and we obviously had a lot of millennials and some Gen Zs. And I was like, Generation X, like, are we so apathetic that we're not even going to be in the movie? But I mean, that doesn't actually matter. It was just kind of, it was like, because I was thinking about who else would I cast in this, right? Because the casting was really fun. And I was like, oh, but they were missing the like Seth, Rithik, even Baby B, like we're missing those guys.
So Rithik reminds me, what is your theory as to who plays Dave in part 2? Because my money's on Ranveer Singh and my husband's money is on Rithik.
Well, I think that I read who it was, and it is one of what you said. It is what you said, I believe.
Well, I think Anupama Chopra kind of gave she let the cat out of the bag in one of her interviews, right? Where she said it's Ranveer Singh, but I don't know if that's like confirmed.
I mean, they sure made it. It sure looks like him in silhouette.
It does.
Like the triangle torso, that's not Rithik so much anymore. It's him. So
yeah. And I mean, I would be okay with either. I just think it would be really. And then our common friend Sujoy, his theory is that it's Ranbir Kapoor in a double role.
Sure, that'd be fun. Sure.
So I was kind of like, but I really kind of want to watch Ranveer versus Ranbir. I think
I like that too. I think that'd be fun.
It would be like Godzilla versus Kong, but not monsters. And then it would be nice to see Ranveer Singh and Deepika Padukone have a showdown as well, because she's confirmed, like she's 100% Amrita. So that would be cool. How did you feel about Mounty Roy, who played Junoon?
Mostly good. It's so, again, not a fluent Hindi speaker, so please correct me. I felt that there was something kind of like old school villain about her dialogues. Maybe it was like kind of shouty, and
it was her intonation. She was very like emphatic. I noticed that too, actually.
But I like that again, that works for me. And I think forgive me if I said this already, this is definitely a movie that if they made it in 1975, I would be all over it. So that kind of old school villainry works for me. I thought it was fun to have a woman be the villain. I thought, I'm not sure I know completely what her motivation is. Like, it's power, but she's also serving Dave, whatever. Like, I'm for it. She was fun.
I liked her. I hope she gets more roles, because she's basically a really popular TV actress in India. And I think Ayan Mukherjee cast her because she's in this long running soap called Nagin, which I have seen bits of, and it is so fun. It is ridiculous and insane, but it's fun. So she
like
plays
that.
this like transmuting snake human person,
Love it.
and she
Love it.
completely owns that role. And I think I believe if I remember correctly, he cast her because of Nagin, which completely makes sense.
I need to watch this. That I love snake movies, so maybe I would love snake TV.
It's a soap, so it's been going on since the beginning of time, and it's very like stretched out. But it's good to watch in clips. It's actually a
Okay.
lot of fun.
I bet I can
So
find good clips on YouTube. I'll have to look.
yeah, it's an Ekta Kapoor, of course. It's an Ekta Kapoor show.
So
Um,
let me ask you something about this film.
yeah,
So I have more knowledge of Hinduism than the average American person, but
right.
I do not know very much. And at
Mhm.
the beginning in particular, I was like, someone is just shouting Sanskrit at me. I know who's shouting, but like, I was just like, and then,
Right.
and the subtitles are very funny, like how they translate things and whatever.
Yeah.
But I kind of just let that wash over me. Like, I'm like, this is
Right.
movie mythology. If it also is based in actual ancient text and whatever, cool. But if it's not, no problem. Like, I'll
Yeah.
just roll with it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
how do you feel that they kind of handled their mythology, whether the
I
stuff they
actually think
developed or
they
the
did a really good job
oh good.
because so there's these comics, right, that all Indian kids grew up reading that I did too, Amar Chitra Katha.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
even the way that they did the art in the beginning was very
That's
reminiscent
and
of
it's
that.
funny. I've never read those, but I know enough to
Yeah.
assume that's what was going on. Yeah.
Like I know like grown friends, like people who are in their 40s who own like box sets of Amar Chitra
Sure.
Katha, and they will not allow their children to touch them. Like that's like the fandom level. And they were really phenomenal comics. Like I
Nice.
have cartons full of Amar Chitra Katha in my mother's house in Mumbai. So I really like that. And I kind of like that they gave this like quick kind of like a Cliff Notes version at the beginning, and then they were like, okay, now the movie can begin. Because if they didn't, I feel like a lot of people would have floundered. So I think it was
Mm.
helpful. It was kind of in that vein of, where you have in a galaxy far, far away, whatever.
I'm all for it.
You know,
It's part of the template, right? Like you do this.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that because otherwise I would have felt very thrown into the movie where I would have been
Mm.
like, okay, but like what are we doing here? What is happening? This was just like a quick intro where there was like, okay, this is what happened. And then the gods had these weapons, and then this weapon, and then that one. And it's like, oh, okay, gotcha. So I kind of like that a lot. And I think that it was fun to actually watch a movie that's set in Hindu or Indian mythology rather than all of the stuff that's like Western all the time.
Mm.
Like one of the things that really gets my goat is the amount of Eurocentrism there is in the world. Like every time someone calls Hrithik Roshan a Greek god, and I'm like, he's 100% South Asian. Like he does not have a drop of European blood. Why is he a Greek god? Like basically
Mm.
you're saying that Indian men are not attractive, and if an
Mm.
Indian man is attractive, then he's a Greek god.
Mm.
Like it seems like a very small point, but it always rubs me the wrong way. Like
Yeah.
anytime someone's like, Hrithik Roshan is a Greek god, I'm like, no, he is literally 100% brown.
Yeah.
So, it's little things like that where it's nice to finally have a movie where it's not all like, it's just the Western stuff over and over again, or it's like Greek or Roman mythology, which by the way, I love. I mean, I have a cat called Minerva, for God's sake. So, I
Right.
clearly love Roman and Greek mythology, but it's nice to finally tap into that because there's so much cool stuff in Indian mythology and no one taps into it, you know,
I mean, I feel
which
like
is the
there
thing.
are a lot of movies that tap into it, but they often are not A-list movies, right? They
Yeah,
are, a lot of those mythologicals are, um,
right.
you know, again, as someone who likes snake movies, I've seen quite a few of these, but they are not as budget as
I
this.
love
They don't have the
Snake.
star power of this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and
So,
I really enjoyed so I was, obviously I was thinking about other kind of superhero-ish movies that
mm,
specifically Hindi cinema has done. Poor Drona, right? Remember
I
Drona?
knew you were gonna say Drona.
But it really did try, right? And that's another very Joseph Campbell-y sort of
Yeah.
one. I would be kind of tempted to go back and rewatch that at some point, honestly, to see like looking back,
Yeah.
were we just not ready for it or what? Or is it just, oh, it's a mess. I
Right.
really have a soft spot for Raw One. I really do. And
Oh God.
I've rewatched it several times since it came out. I really think it was, I'm not going to say it was ahead of its time, but like I think it was really doing some
Right.
stuff. But that obviously is not nearly as mythology based as this. So it is
Yeah.
really cool to see this, and as someone who's, kind
Yeah,
of new to
especially
some
because
of
they
this.
can like tap into so much more stuff. And I think just fantasy as a genre is not utilized in Indian cinema at all. We're just stuck doing like the action movies or the romantic movies or the comedies or something, but it's like no one taps into the mythology stuff. There's a lot of TV shows in India that have to do with that, but they are straight up like text, like
Retellings, right? Yeah.
there's just retellings. There's
Yeah.
no like anything else. It's just straight up that, and it's mostly the older generation that likes it. Like
Yeah.
it's a snooze fest, frankly.
Yeah.
So I liked. How did you feel about the music? I was really underwhelmed,
I
except
too
by
was
this,
very
yeah,
underwhelmed. Yeah,
right.
very underwhelmed.
I feel like a movie of this kind of stature and the fact that it's taken them 10 years to make it and the 490 crore bloated budget. I mean, surely you could have come up with better music. It needed something epic by like A.R. Rahman or someone, but it was just kind of like, okay.
The thing is, while the songs were happening, I was like, okay, but
Yeah.
I didn't walk out humming anything. But I also didn't really, I'm trying to think of a movie where I would say like, and I still really resent the fact that the songs weren't better. There must be some, but like I kind of forgot about them, but not in a bad way. I was just kind of like, okay, that song's over now, like whatever. It didn't really bother me, but they were underwhelming.
Well, I just felt like the movie was so long. I mean, it was like,
yeah,
it was long and it was past my bedtime and I just wanted to go home after a point. Like I was having fun, but I was also yawning like a lot. And I was like, these songs were so underwhelming. You could literally have kept Kesaria, which was very hummable and nice. And then you could have kept that Om Namo Namo. I liked it because of the whole like rave aspect of it. Just keep those two, delete all the other songs, and then we have like a much better runtime, I feel like. How did you feel about the extremely asinine dialogues? I hated them.
So yeah, my Hindi is good enough that I can understand some of the, some basic dialogues, obviously without subtitles. And I was not, and I'm sure there were some there's always subtitle translation issues, right? Sometimes I catch them, sometimes I don't know enough to, but I felt like there were many moments where I was like, is this for kids?
Right.
And I couldn't tell you why I thought that exactly. It wasn't necessarily a simplisticness, but there was something about it that just felt a little juvenile.
It was so amateurish.
Yeah, something like that. And based on the reaction of the audience that was in my theater, they thought so too, because they were laughing at things that were not funny.
So bad. So the dialogue writer, Hussein Dalal, is actually getting like flamed. He's getting reamed on social media. Like, when was the last time you heard a dialogue writer's name, right?
Never.
But it's because people are like, can you please do a better job with the second movie? Because this was so bad. It was really bad. And all the memes.
It's probably hard to write. What do you do with a contemporary film that has also got all of this historical, if not full on like ancient, largely dead language? Like, what do you do with a bunch of Sanskrit in right now in a superhero movie, right? Like, that probably is hard. So I can imagine maybe that's partly why it kind of.
But the worst part to me was like, for example, when they meet in the temple, Alia and Ranbir, and she decides to go to Varanasi with him. And literally, if you translate to English, she's saying, I want to come to Varanasi with you. I am coming to Varanasi with you. Yeah, I think I'll come to Varanasi with you. How many times do we have to hear I will come to Varanasi with you? It's like you're just playing with tenses at this point. Is this a grammar exercise? Right. It was horrible.
Right.
So that has nothing to do with like mythology and ethos. That's just bad writing, bro. Yeah. So I was very disappointed in that. That was probably the biggest letdown of the movie for me. Yeah, that was ridiculous. Can we talk about the cabin they all live in?
It's lovely. Let's go.
I want to move there.
I mean, I guess it got destroyed, but.
Oh, did it? Oh, yes. Oh, no. Did it?
Well, I mean, everything's on fire at the end, I think, question mark.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're right.
Poor little Tenzing.
Okay, so here is what happened. So this is funny. So when I went to see the movie, there were like quite a few like Indian people and there were quite a few like non-Indian people. And when Tenzing was killed, the only people who said no were the Americans. All the Indian people were like, happens. Because again, to me, it was a throwback to Mr. India. Because in Mr. India, you had that little girl, Tina, right? Who is like
Yeah.
so cute and adorable and wants to eat the samosas and then she gets blown up. So I think in Hindi movies, we're so used to the children dying. They were like, so
But it was
fencing.
the, it was the one Northeastern character, and you're like, that's the one you're gonna kill? Okay.
Well, I feel
Okay.
like they intentionally kill like the cute kid. But I do think, I don't know, this movie is just full of so many like winks and nudges towards old films that it just automatically made me think of Tina from Mr. India. But yeah, he was so cute. And
He was
then
so
it was like,
cute.
but it also kind of served to show how completely bloodthirsty and horrible Junoon is. I mean, not that
Sure.
we needed any proof, but now you
We did
really know
already
how
know,
bad
but
it
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one thing I want to say that I really felt fell flat in the movie for me,
Mm,
other than the romance was a dud, but
yeah.
like I know how to live through that in a movie. I'm used to, romances don't work. You're like, okay, I can get myself through this. At The problem with that was that at the end, when the whole lesson is like, and the thing that saves everything is love, and you're
It's
like,
love.
yeah, but you did not earn that at all. And I
Right.
kind of I don't know what the solution to that is, but
Yeah.
and maybe that was just a subtitling thing that kind of made me think that was a bigger deal than it was or something. But I was like, and obviously there's other kinds of love, like there's love for your colleagues and your children in your city and your blah, blah, blah. But like this dud romance at the beginning, at the heart
Yeah.
of some of this being the thing that made him know how to channel his lighter or find his lighter, I don't know, whatever. You're like, wah, wah,
I mean,
wah.
I think I think that was just weak writing, to be
Mm,
honest, because
sure.
if you're gonna sell, I mean, I did not go into the theater to see a love story. That is not what I associate Brahmastra with. I went to the theater to see a fantasy. And
Yeah.
now you're essentially telling me that this movie is really at its core a love story. I'm not buying that,
Right.
because if you want me to buy that, you really have to set up this sort of like epic romance, or you at least have to make me care about them. And I just don't care about them. I care far more about Shah Rukh Khan and his 5 minute cameo than I do about Alia, but I couldn't care less if she gets blown to smithereens. I'm sorry. I just don't care.
And I kind of thought she would, actually. I thought they were going to
Yeah,
sacrifice her, but I was
I
like,
wouldn't
oh,
mind at
okay.
all if she was. Um, so I just didn't feel that they sold it that well. I mean, if you're gonna make love the answer to everything, then either you need much more solid writing, which they didn't have, or
Yeah.
you needed to set up their romance far better in the beginning, which they didn't. Or frankly, Ranbir and Alia just needed to be better actors, where they can
Something.
sell
Yeah.
the unsellable. Because I did read a really interesting post that someone wrote on Instagram, and I'll share it with you as well. Is this woman, she wrote about Shah Rukh Khan's cameo in the movie, and she said that watching the movie made her realize that if you had given those same cringy dialogues to Shah Rukh Khan to say, he would have actually sold it,
Probably.
because he's someone that he can sell you the underdog hockey team in Chak De India. He can sell
Yeah.
you the guy who waits for 22 years languishing in a Pakistani prison in Veer Zara. He can
Yeah.
sell you on all of these very unsellable things. So maybe it's just that Ranbir Kapoor just can't reach that level of acting. But my thing is, should he have to? Can't you just write a better story?
Yeah. And
Why?
it's hard to get probably give a romance, right? Like the energy from the film that it needs while you're also doing all these other things.
Yeah,
And like, granted, mainstream Hindi cinema is very good at doing a whole bunch of things at
yeah,
once. That is the bones of masala. But
right. The
like,
Bones of Masala. That sounds like such a good book. The Bones of Masala.
I'll write that for you. Um,
Yeah.
we'll write it together out of our podcast.
Yeah.
I just, so yeah, it didn't really yeah, it just kind of was like that part didn't work, and then they made too much out of it.
Yeah.
But there was certainly plenty of other stuff to be distracted by
Yeah.
most of the time. So
Yeah, I was pretty distracted by all the pretty lights. I really enjoyed it.
lots of
I
pretty lights.
loved the special effects. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed. I loved when the Nandi Astra came to life and you had this like raging bull just
That was
stampeding.
cool.
That
And
was really cool.
as someone who comes from a, kind of a different set of mythologies about animals,
Yeah.
I don't really have a sort of like a mental picture of like the all powerful bull. And that was
Yeah.
super cool. Like I've seen some of the giant statues and sculptures and
Right.
statues in India of giant bulls, but like
Right.
that was really cool. And
It was really neat.
So have you seen the craptacular movie Gods of Egypt?
I feel like I have. Does it have either Brendan Fraser or Rami Malek in it?
No,
No, that's The Mummy.
that's The Mummy.
I may have, because if something has to do with Egypt and mummies, I probably would watch it.
I feel like you probably haven't, because you would remember it has
Mhm.
Gerard Butler, and it has
Oh.
Chadwick Boseman and a bunch of other people, and one person I won't spoil for you, because when you find out who is playing one of the major Egyptian gods, your jaw will hit the floor and you'll be so excited.
Oh.
It is
Okay.
it visually stunning. And it was like,
Okay.
okay, what's a mythology we can go to where no one actually believes in that anymore? So we're not going to offend anybody.
Right. Right.
It's a terrible movie, but it is so visually fun. And like, it needed songs so badly. I was like, if Bollywood
Right.
made this movie, it would be so much better. And it
It
would have
needed
actual
Suraj Madam.
totally. So totally. And it is
Yeah.
you should definitely watch it. It's super fun in terms of
Okay.
like using a source of mythology. But it's super stupid. But I kept wishing for some of the, like, I could have used more mythological spectacle, is
Yeah.
what I'm getting at. And I don't know why they
Mhm.
didn't do that. Maybe they just didn't want to. Maybe they didn't feel it was relevant. Maybe they were trying to play it safe politically or something. But I could have
Mhm.
used, I don't know, like maybe some actual people enacting a few of the things that were hinted in the animations at the beginning or something, just like a
Mhm.
little more god and goddess razzle dazzle. Again,
Yeah.
it wasn't missing, but I personally would have enjoyed that.
Would have enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think like some of the fight sequences too could have been shortened a bit, because
sure.
there was a point at which I was just kind of like, okay, who's hitting what with whom, what, and I was kind of like zoning out a little bit. And after a point, I was like, I'm not going to make any sense of this fight sequence, so I'm just going to enjoy the pretty colors,
I
which were
I
great.
did love when they made it clear that Amitabh Bachchan was going to have a lightsaber. I was like, I'm so here for this. Like, I was born in
Yeah.
1974. I was absolutely raised on Star Wars. And when he like, vroom, I was like, yes. And isn't there another movie where he has a lightsaber, like not Shahenshah, but one of those? There's some
Maybe
movie, there's a Hindi
a
film where
Juba?
somebody has a lightsaber.
Not a
Maybe it's
Juba.
a Juba. Oh God, I love a
Maybe it's a
Juba.
Juba.
I
I
love
know
it.
you love a Juba. You should know if a Juba, you would know if
I
that had
know,
it. So
right? I
maybe
haven't
it doesn't
revisited
then.
in a while. Like, that was so satisfying to me. I would almost watch that whole movie in the theater again just to see the lightsaber.
Yeah.
Not because it was an immaculately done lightsaber. Like, I have no complaints, but I was like, this hero with that weapon, yes.
He was really, I mean, I have to say, as someone who is really not a fan of Amitabh Bachchan by any stretch of the imagination, I just don't enjoy him at all.
Mm,
I really, really liked him in this movie
yeah, I do
because
too.
he was kind of like this wise, crafty grandfather person, but also he means business and you can't pull the wool over his. I don't know. He just
It's
did
very
that really well.
satisfying.
Yeah, it's just fun, and
Yeah,
with his deep baritone and everything.
absolutely. Please narrate
Yeah.
everything, great.
Yes, he probably is like, you could probably shake him awake at like 3 a.m., although he's 80 years old, so please don't. But you could probably shake him awake at 3 a.m. and he would be able to narrate this stuff and be all like fancy doing it.
So good.
So that was very satisfying.
Very satisfying.
Hmm.
Yeah, overall, I just had a great time and I'm really glad that I saw it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. I certainly enjoyed it far more than I liked RRR, which was a snooze fest. Did you like RRR? I feel like you didn't.
I didn't. And I feel like I'm sorry. I feel like I need to apologize. I will say I watched it
I
on
feel like,
Netflix, so it was the Hindi
yeah.
dub, and I really would rather have seen, Telugu, but I it was fine. I had much higher
Yeah.
expectations based on that director. I really like the Bahubali movies, for example.
Mhm.
I have been converted to the cult of Magadira, like, but
Mhm.
I didn't think RRR was that good. And I didn't even like the garden party dance, which everyone was loving. And I was like, I feel like I've seen both those people do way better dancing
I
than
kind
that.
of
And
like
like,
that dance.
and
That
I,
dance was the only thing I liked in it. Let's put it that way.
and I got very distracted by the anachronistic costumes. For some reason, that really bothered
Oh
me in
yeah.
that movie. And again, if it had been made in the 70s, I would be like, yes, great, Dharamveer, costumes from everything. Like, who cares?
Oh
But
yes, that
this,
would
I
be,
was
oh
like,
God.
that is not 1940s or whatever year it was supposed to be. I was like, that's not any of this. This is all wrong. Please stop.
Right.
But yeah, so I was not into RRR, and when I saw Shamshera, which I thought was actually a much better take on some of the sort of independence kind of stuff, even though it's a different time period. But yeah, no, this was a great time in the theater. It made me very excited to look ahead to see what else is coming out this year that I might enjoy in the cinema. Like, see, and I'd love to see a movie with other people. Like the people came out to the theater. I went at 7:30 on a Sunday evening. I didn't know who would be there. A lot of people were there, and it was super fun.
I did read, I was reading a few tweets about the movie, and some Indian guy said that he lives in Germany and he watched the movie in Germany, and it was like a 50% Indian and 50% like German crowd.
Nice.
And everybody went crazy when Shah Rukh Khan came on screen. So I was like,
he is beloved there.
It is the power of Shah Rukh.
So in Germany, they dub foreign films usually, is my understanding. And when I've been to Germany to visit other Bollywood friends, when we watch their DVDs or whatever, it's dubbed, but there's a particular actor who does Shah Rukh.
Oh.
But like when he would start talking, I'm like, that's totally wrong. Like, that's not Shah Rukh's voice. Like, I can forgive him speaking German, whatever, but like, that's not Shah Rukh. What's going on? It's so weird.
Does it not even sound like Shah Rukh at all?
Not really.
Oh,
not to me anyway.
So I watch a lot of K-dramas, and a lot of K-dramas are also dubbed into like a lot of languages, right? I just watched them in Korean with the English subtitles, but once just for fun, because I could see they had like the credits for the Hindi voiceover artist. Just for fun, as an experiment, I put it on. The cognitive dissonance was so real.
It's very upsetting.
I was like, what is happening? Like the tone and the inflection, everything, it just threw me off completely. And I was like, I can't, this is demonic. And I like completely switched it back. So I can't.
Dubbing. I hate it. I will say, I do want to, I feel like I should give 1 point to RRR. I did love that those two major actors dubbed for themselves in Hindi. In RRR, that was great, because I do sort of know enough to know what they sound like roughly, and that was good. And I think that really somehow helped. But yeah, you can see the words don't match their mouths, and it's really irritating. Anyway.
Nice. Okay.
Any closing thoughts about Brahmastra from you?
Let me check my Google Doc that I have, because I'm a nerd person.
Love this.
Oh, I just have one closing thought, which is that if everybody is going to have all these like cool astras, can I get a kitten astra? Because I would like that. Can you imagine? Okay, imagine a stampeding kitten that is so upset and its tail is all like this and it's like, wow, and it just like goes around scratching people. That would be so much fun. So if I was in the Brahmastra universe, I would want a kitten astra. I think that would be adorable.
What color light would your kitten be made out of?
It would be bubblegum pink. Because it's cute. It's a cute kitten.
I really like that.
Yeah, isn't that adorable? It would just meow and flatten everybody with its big bushy tail. Exactly.
Like that cat that's knocking things off its human's desk. Like
it would just like knock people over, like doosh, doosh, gone. And then it would like purr when it was happy. Oh, I think there need to be kittens in Brahmastra. That would make it perfect. Let's just kill Alia off and replace her with a kitten. Let's do that.
He does need an animal sidekick, right? He needs his vehicle.
He needs an animal sidekick. He needs something. Yeah.
Oh, and again, from the 70s, like I love the movies that are full of helpful animals. And I feel like the light animals, they count. So I was like, yes.
Like a cheetah or something. I feel like he should have a cheetah. He seems like that kind of guy. Or like a wolf. So
like a wolf. Or maybe
like a lone wolf.
What about because he's got the whole like I'm fireproof thing. Does he need a water-based animal like a dolphin?
Like a salamander?
Oh, a salamander.
Or a phoenix.
A phoenix. You're blending your mythologies, but that's okay.
I am.
Is there a phoenix type bird in Hinduism?
Probably is. There's all the animals.
I mean, this is the thing. You're like, there's like how many hundreds of thousands of deities? Like, sure, there's an animal for that. Or just give him the mouse and let him like have it be a comedy moment.
Okay, so this was Brahmastra, and then next week we're gonna do our little Austin in India. episode where our dear friend Amrita from Khandan is going to join us. So that will be very exciting. And then I am going to review Kandakonde, which is based on Pride and Prejudice. You are reviewing, no, mine is based on Sense and Sensibility. You're doing Pride and Prejudice, which is Pride and Prejudice. And she's doing Aisha, which is Emma. Great. Yay. Exciting.
We're very excited.
So intellectual and highbrow.
Put on your brainy specs, as Doctor Who would
yes,
say.
for sure.
Well, thanks everybody for watching and listening. Please share this out with your filmy friends, and we'll see you next time for Jane Austen in India. Bye.
Yay, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.
Subscribe. Bye.